Look, I don't want to go through the whole book. It's 11 chapters, and needless to say, everybody should go buy it and get the Audible, get them both. But there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about in the book. You talk about conservatism, and something you taught me about. I didn't realize that the party that abolished slavery was the Republican Party. And so this is me growing up in America, learning American history, and you're educating me that was actually not what I thought. I just assumed it was the Democrat Party, and you're actually educating people on what conservatism is and why it can and should be embraced by the Black community. Can you speak on that briefly and maybe, dispel some things that people might not know about it?
Yeah, it's ironic when the party that is able to call everybody a racist is actually the party that, first enslaved Black Americans, then segregated Black Americans, and fought every civil rights progress for Black Americans to end Jim Crow laws. People don't know this because it's been essentially whitewashed out of history books. The party of the Klansmen, they were Democrats. It was started by Democrats trying to pursue what was the lost cause of the South and trying to make sure Union troops were out of there and not protecting Black rights. And people don't know this because Democrats have very carefully just kind of rinse their history in the books. They will tell you LBJ, I talk about him a lot in my book, signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but leave out the fact that he was an avowed racist who hated Black people and basically had to sign that bill with a gun to his head. And you need but look at his record in the Senate for 20 years, voting in the Southern Bloc against every single major Black piece of legislation that was put on the table to give us agency. He voted against it. He was a proud racist, actually. And there are still LBJ tapes out that you can listen to, and you can see how much he says the N-word, and you can understand exactly what he thought about us. And Democrats teach students that he was their hero because he inked the Civil Rights Bill, because there were protests and America was burning, and he basically had to. And no sooner did he do that than he put in place another form of slavery via the Great Society Act and welfare benefits. And he purposefully and Machiavellian, and by Machiavellian design, sought to break down the Black family. And everything sort of starts here with the Democrat Party in Black America and where we are today. Breaking down the family, making sure they control the education system. The Department of Education should be abolished. Teaching Black Americans not how to read or write. We have a massive epidemic right now of Black children who can't pass basic literacy and basic mathematics exams, especially Black boys, I should say. And yet these kids can tell you about white privilege and Black Lives Matter and why, the white man is evil. And that's all by design, because just as in the times of slavery, the Democrats know that an educated mind can't be enslaved. So they've attacked our education system. They've given us false idols like LeBron James and Cardi B and tell us to aspire toward that. And at the same time, they train us to attack those within our own community that aspire towards academic success. I tell in one of the chapters, I think on education, about when I was growing up, because I tested high on state exams. And I was placed in an all-white class. It was the highest class in the school, but everyone was white. There was only one other Black person in the class. And so naturally, I was friends with white people in my class because they were in my classes. And I remember being bullied by Black girls that would push me into lockers and call me names because I spoke proper English. And because I spoke proper English, I was accused of acting white. This is a cultural issue and a curse that we have in our community that plagues our community, that we treat academic success as a cultural failure, where we bully kids that want to do well in school, when we call Condoleezza Rice a race traitor despite all of her remarkable accomplishments, and yet we call LeBron James a king. We call him a king. We call Beyonce a queen, and we dismiss people like Clarence Williams. Clarence Thomas, pardon. These are the things that I'm talking about. We have a major culture problem in Black America, and we also have a system, or a tornado rather, of white guilt that surrounds us at all times, that this allows us to break through, that this allows us to actually get better and fix issues in our community, because the moment that an issue is identified, we are never considered the culprits of that issue. There's this idea, this concept of Black blamelessness, that there is no such thing as Black culpability. And there's tons of Black culpability. If you're actually concerned about saving Black lives, and you have to talk about why Black men are killing Black men, because that's the biggest contributor to the death of Black lives is other Black people. And when you say that, people go, oh, well, white people kill white people too. Yes, but white people aren't blaming Black people for the death of white lives. That's the difference, is that they don't remove their own culpability. They don't celebrate celebrate the criminals of their community. They don't tease people for being smart. And these are all things that if we don't, as a community, have the courage, because it takes courage to talk about honestly, it's never going to get fixed.